Hey there, Stephanie Joy with all things Social Security and the law practice of Joy Disability. Here's a short little segment from our recent live stream Q&A that we have every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube channel, All Things Social Security. Enjoy, and if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments, and I will be sure to get to them. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.
Hey guys, how are you? Hope everyone's doing good today. It is Wednesday, March 4th, 1 o'clock p.m. Right on time. That's super nice, right? All right, so how is your week going? Anything interesting happen? How's everybody's weather? All sorts of fascinating things going on, right? It's been a pretty good week, pardon me. I got a little cold. I think I'm getting over it. I think this is the first day I'm kind of coming out of it. I see Shiloh's in the house. Hi, Shiloh. Kevin Johnson from Tennessee. Hi, Kevin. Dimple, good to see you, Dimple. George Graham, always good when you visit. From Punta Gorda, Florida. Donna Houston, good to see you, lady. Mike Page, always great to see you as well. All right, so we got a little few of you guys here, nice and bright and early. Looks like the first question, it's from Shiloh, so let's hop into it, guys. Yeah, let's see what's going on. And by the way, there's Tasha. Oh, did you guys notice, can you see that little barcode up there? Not really sure what it... They just said, oh, you can put in this, I'm sorry, QR code, right? I said that wrong. It's to the free evaluation. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll try it. Let's see what goes on. You know, me and my tech skills, they're not exactly top of the line. There you go, baby. Okay, maybe just a little tiny bit. A little treat. She likes Wednesdays as much as I do. She hasn't been in here in a couple days. It was really terrible, but I was doing a lot of work out there. I was pulling some midnight oil, literally midnight oil. Yesterday was the last one, and I actually didn't have to work till midnight. It was more like 8. So that was good. It's just while a lot of different projects are going on, you know? So anyway, let's get to Shiloh. Good to see you again, Shiloh. Oops, did I get you up there? Shiloh says, thank you in advance for your time. Always my pleasure, Shiloh. I have questions about the work history section. Okay, was such an important one, guys. And at hearing time is when I see it the most. And I'm utterly grateful about our very anal retentive way of making sure function reports for our clients are, really accurate, pinpoint accurate in the ways that are important. Hey, what? She was saying she wants another one. So anyway, so this is pretty timely there, Shiloh. If you haven't worked since 2023 and worked in customer service from home with ability to take long breaks, due to PTSD with panic attacks, towards the end, it was around 4 hours out of an 8-hour week. I was listening to some of your videos and you talked about sitting, standing, etc. And it was important to show, funny you mentioned this, we'll talk about this, show the full 8 hours. I haven't got to that section yet doing the application online, but just wanted to make sure that I fill it out correctly. I think it's a great idea. If you had one job in the past 5 years, the 5 years that are going to be your relevant period, I think it's a great idea to do the on paper, in advance. If you only have that one job, to do it indeed on the paper first, because if you only put in one job when you apply, it is going to make you do all those details. And then you're on the spot in the middle of applying. And that's not really a great place to be. It's not that you can't go out and come back in, but they're going to start nagging you with letters if you don't get this thing out within like 2 days after you started it. It's a real pain in the ass. Oops, I mean ours. Sorry about that. She said that, not me. So, all right. So it sounds like you're working 4 hours, not a day, a week. So were you doing like an hour here and there or 1 4-hour shift? I don't know that that's clear, Shiloh. But let me tell you, I have a case where I was just reviewing work history, and it's a person who was part-time and down to 4 hours a day. Well, and the argument here was that it wasn't SGA when you looked at the certified earnings per year and clearly per month. So the argument is that it's not SGA anyway, although it's in the 5-year period. So for this person, we're already preparing SSA 820 because we are asserting that that person hasn't worked since 2017. Not SGA work, because that is the argument, and that all the work thereafter, goodness, is non-SGA, and therefore it is not past relevant work either. So that would put the person with no transferable skills off the bat. And of a grid person, that's one of the 3 prongs you need to meet. So if I can knock out that there's no past relevant work, despite the fact they're working part-time, they weren't making SGA, then we have 1 prong out of the way that has to be proven for a grid win. But it is difficult. So what I did in this case, Shiloh, and you sound like you might be under SGA too, but you have to figure out when you were above SGA. If you were above SGA at some point in the 5-year period, and if your DLI is ahead of you, the 5-year period is going to be from the date of your whatever adjudication is going to be taking place, which is it's going to be a moving target. But so do it as of today and look 5 back, and it's going to be keep sliding along in the future, which is good for you. But whenever you stopped working SGA, so when those hours and the pay drop down below the SGA amount, that's good. I'm trying to think how we did it, because I've seen it done different ways. It was the one job in the application, described the job ending in 2017, and then describing the hours when it was SGA. That's what we did. So we did the 8-hour thing, so they could actually, but we're knocking it out where that's not going to be relevant anyway, because that stopped in 2017. So we have to do all that little legwork because they're going to just probably demand it anyway. But when you look at in the application, if you had only one job, it's going to say how many jobs did you have in the past 5 years? Okay, I had one. Okay, answer all these slow questions, which is exactly what you're seeing on the paper form. And we put, it says start date and end date. In this case, we decided to say start date was like 2000, date 2017, and that's when the person worked full time. And then we were able to then rationally do, okay, so it's 7 hours of standing, 7.5 hours of standing, 30 hours of sitting. It's a manual job, and get into all the hard stuff. Because I do want them to see that anyway. Even though, again, there's going to be no past relevant work, that job's not going to count because it's out of the time range. So that's how we did it. Now, other times, and there's kind of a few ways to skin the cat. We are going to have to do the 820. We already have it all done. It's ready to go. They're going to demand it. I might actually send it before they demand it because it's to the field office. It's to help it get over the hump to get to a medical workup office. So we might not wait for that. I do have to wait until I'm on board, though. So that's, sometimes something like that can't happen because they're so slow. But if you put my past work and put 4 hours a week, and then probably it was all in one day, right? Or maybe 2 days, 2-hour shifts, then you would be putting that information. And then you are going to be saying, well, I only stood for an hour and I sat for an hour, maybe because you were changing position or whatever. I don't know that you can't do it that way either. But if it's not past relevant work, it's going to end up being not past relevant work, which is always a good thing. It's always good for a case in a way because you have no skills to transfer. Because the only transferable skills can come from the last relevant 5 years. All right. I don't know if that give you any little insight and ideas on how to do that because it really depends on your situation. You're making crumbs all over. Sorry. She's excited to be here, though, I tell you, because she was pretty bored out there. I felt bad, but I mean, I was in the room with her, but she wasn't like this. She likes to be up close and personal. Kevin Johnson in the house. Hello from Tennessee. Still watch you and Ginsburg every Wednesday live or replay. That's awesome. I pop into Jonathan's occasionally and take a little look see. His is, as you guys know, at 8:30 at night, usually, or 8:45 now he's doing. I'm usually if I'm still up and not working, I'm usually off doing something else. So, but I haven't seen him. Well, I've seen him in this other network group we're in, just discussing like legal practices and things like that. But we haven't coordinated lately. All right, she dropped the rest of her little cookie, so that's good. I bet you she's got the sugar and now she's gonna go take a nap. Notice how she hightailed it over there. Go ahead, you can go. So hi there, Dimple from Ohio. And George Graham, as I said, Diana. Dimple, question is, how long does it usually take for a claim to go from the field office to the DDS? I'm going on 2 months now. Yeah, sometimes we have to bug them, right? So we send our resend letters and then you make a phone call. It can take a while and it really depends on the office. I do think a gentle nudge isn't harmful after certainly within a month or two, I would definitely start, calling every week now, maybe. And the attorney can also send a letter every week. The thing with the letters, they all go into this is my understanding, they all go into like a big receptacle and then someone has to sort them and do all this stuff. So hopefully that will get a move on. But I think phone calls can be good. Very annoying if they're going to not pick up their phone in a timely fashion, but it's worth doing. Put your speakerphone on, put your plug in, go about your day, maybe watch some YouTube on your device while you wait for the pickup call. And then, always honey, not vinegar. Just say, hey, I know I've sent you the application back on so-and-so date. Everything was included. My attorney sent in the appointment of representation papers that I signed 2 months ago, and then again, and like 3 more times. Can you please process them because this case has been sitting for a while? And I always say be super nice and super kind because number one, no one deserves to get berated. And I know, Dimple, you wouldn't be doing anything rude anyway, but I'm saying it for everybody else. But number two, you got people with the power to toss things over the side potentially. Like don't bite the hand that's controlling your case, right? Like you kind of have to do a little arse kissing. See, I said it right that time. I don't want YouTube to yell at me. There's enough shadow banning as it is. All right. Mike says, Stephanie praying for our troops. Indeed. Absolutely, we are. Always. Whenever there's military action, right? Zipple says she could hear. That was great. Justin Zane is in the house. Hey, Justin. From the Caribbean. Caribbean, guys? Or Caribbean? How do y'all say it? One, Caribbean. Two, Caribbean. Which way? Caribbean. I think I say number one, but I've heard people say it the other way. So maybe Justin can tell us what people in the Caribbean say. Maybe we should all fall suit. All right. Deanna, thank you. Adam's in the house. Nice to see you, Adam, always. Dimple just checked the Dimple, we're showing our ages when we say barcode. It's a QR code. Well, we always got to get up with the lingo of the time. So QR code, that's pretty cool. That was brand new when I just got in here today, 2 seconds before, maybe 60 seconds before I turned it on. It was on and set up and ready to go, but I hadn't sat down yet and connected it, started it. I saw that. I'm like, and those little media assets they have. That's pretty cool. Jeffrey Taylor's in the house. Howdy from South Texas. Hey, South Texas. You've had some interesting races, political races. Justin says, as some know, I'm a disabled vet and received most of my treatment there. I think he's saying in the Caribbean. I recently was approved for Medicaid. Excellent. I am due to start with PC. And you also have VA access, right, Justin? Since you're a disabled vet. Justin says, I'm due to start with primary care under Medicaid next week. Excellent. I think I should be sharing treatment progress with my legal team. Yes, you should be. Visits should be reported to your lawyers. I have met with a mental health professional out of pocket, out of Medicaid network. Do I send those visits? Of course you do. Do you want the SSA to know that you are treating every time? Or do you just want them to have a few records? Everything. Because the frequency of your visits not only speaks to the frequency of how strongly you feel you need the visits, you need help, but it also is what will end up getting the record for that date. No one can get the record for that date if they don't know that there is a date. You follow? So, and for us anyway, when a client reports, and usually they're going to a doctor every week, I would say. Sometimes it's every 2 weeks, but people, when they're in the throes of a disability case, they're usually at their heightened level of treatment because they're really trying to figure things out. And not to mention they have to build evidence. So it's a twofer. And, when they put in a certain amount of visits or a certain amount of time goes by, that stuff goes up literally like grab the stuff, prepare a letter for the adjudicator. Sometimes it's a phone call with the adjudicator, but other times it's a letter because you definitely want to document it either way. So it's always going to be in writing. And that's when they get word of it. So if you don't send it up, the legal team isn't going to be able to do that now, are they? Because they are not mind readers. And they're not going to be sitting on the toilet every day thinking about one particular client's case and I wonder if he went and I'll sit here and wait. It's not how it happens. You have to be forthcoming with information because that will trigger activity. You follow? Hi, Dimple. Yes, I sent it to the eval link. I said, why go to the front page? Okay, Shiloh is clarifying that the work he's doing is 4 hours a day out of 8 hours. Okay, are you SGA? Have you done the math, Shiloh? Because if you're not SGA, and you find out if you're not, that's 4 hours of 8 hours a day, unless you're a very high, if you're a high paid person, yes, you could be over SGA. If you're like a middle of the road earner, you might not be SGA. Your hours are certainly not reflective of SGA, but your money might be. So check that out and then find out when you last were SGA since you cut your hours. If it was 18 months ago, that could be your alleged onset date. And then you have to tailor the different parts where they ask about when you last worked in your application to reflect that. I would use that as the oldest date of SGA. And then I say in the remarks, work stoppage date, I'm referring to when I last worked SGA. I still work very part-time under SGA. That way they can't say you didn't tell them and you just left that date as if you weren't still working part-time under SGA, de minimis, whatever you want to call it. You follow what I'm saying? It's a CYA. Not doing it isn't going to crush you either. They're just going to figure it out because they're going to see that the IRS is saying you're making money. But I like to put it in there always from the time it's application. So it's right in their face. And of course, have your 820. 821 if you're a W-2 employee working part-time under SGA. or over SGA. But anytime after the date you said you were disabled, and an 820 if you're self-employed. Get them done now. You don't have to wait for them to ask for them. They are going to ask for them, and if they don't, no harm, no foul. But they really should be. So yes, Justin, I'm skimming through yours and I'll send those up. Tasha is so stinking cute. See, she's talking about you. I would like to. Well, she's way over there. I wish you could see her. She's sleeping now on her perch, eyes closed. Isn't it amazing how they don't fall off? I think they do fall off if they're going to be getting sick and stuff like that. That's why they have to stay healthy. Shiloh says, but they still let me get 8 hours because I would work after hours to catch it. Oh, wait. Now we're changing the story. I mean, you're not changing the story, but we have more details. They're paying you for 8 and you're saying you're really only doing work for 4? No, because you're working after hours to catch up. That's still work. So are you working 8 hours or are you not working 8 hours? It sounds like they're paying you way above SGA because they're paying you full-time wages and you're still doing the work. You're just doing it at odd hours. You could describe it as a split shift. Those are kind of weird. Like you're earning SGA, so you can't file Shiloh if you're earning SGA right now. So put it on a shelf. If you're earning SGA, you're not legally disabled. You're medically impaired while still able to work. Unless you're saying, but I only do that 2 days a week, in which case my hours for the week, it doesn't become SGA. Well, Lauren Blackwell. I don't think we've met Lauren, have we? It's very nice to meet you. Lauren says, hello. I had a hearing the 2nd of December. It went very well. The lawyer thought it was a win. The judge was understanding. Then it went back to his boss, who's a chief ALJ. I have seizures. Should I be worried? I'm not sure what you mean by it went back to the chief ALJ. I don't think that's how it generally happens. If he did a decision, it could be sua sponte audited. I don't know that that's the ALJ per se. So maybe that's just the way it was explained to you. And I'm not even 100% sure what I'm saying is accurate. It's just not my understanding that it's an ALJ thing. You follow? I think it's a specific federal audit review, and maybe not from the 2 people who work together, but another panel, perhaps. But it's a good question. I'm going to try to find that out. So Lauren has seizures. I have 2 to 3 focal tonic-clonic seizures a week. Ooh, has me listed as having medicine resistance to epilepsy. Well, that's not a bad thing in terms of evidence. Have you had the seizures? Presumably, if you have them that often, you've had them out in public. You've had them in the doctor's office. You've had to be taken to the ER. You have those kind of medical records. Or is it just your statements to your doctor that you have them in that manner? Is there any acceptable medical source who has witnessed them? And is there diagnostic testing that shows that you have them this frequently? And I'm not an expert on epilepsy, but see if there's something that reveals that this person has chronic. And another big thing, has your driver's license been medically revoked yet? I should say medically suspended. It's not like a revocation like bad drivers get or DUIs or anything like that. But if it's, and I know this is a problem because I think it's better if it's medically pulled away until you get those better under control. Number one, the law kind of says it's supposed to be. The doctors, I believe, have an obligation. And most of them blow it off, I think, because they don't want to hurt their patients and they want to just trust that their patient's not going to drive. Do you drive despite this? I'm going to assume no. If you do, and you probably put it in your function report, and if you said, yeah, I drive sometimes, that's like a smack in the face of I have these unpredictable seizures multiple times a week, but I still go out and drive and put everybody's life at risk. So not saying that's you, of course. I'm just saying putting it out there for anyone with the same kind of issue. If you're able to do that, then you obviously don't feel you have severe, seizure disorder. So those are the things that I think that they may look at. What is she doing? Is she doing things that a person with seizures as often as that would deny, not do? Has the doctor felt compelled to medically revoke the license? If he didn't, it's definitely not determinative because of what I just said. A lot of them don't do it, even though I think they're legally bound to, but just that it's not enforced. So it's not conclusive. The old I'm driving a lot business, or driving at all, is kind of that to me, it would be much bigger, but it's not hurtful if he does medically revoke them. That can be helpful. That is a significant sign that he's saying, no, these are unpredictable and dangerous and all that. So sometimes people say, I don't want my license. Well, maybe you should. It'll help your case, because it's very objective and significant action taken. And it's not like you can't get the driver's license back once you get the seizures under control. And if you never get them under control with medications for a sufficient amount of time to get the license back, well, then frankly, you probably shouldn't be driving. Thoughts, everybody? Anybody? What do you think, Lauren? Justin says, for case purposes, is a psychologist worth anything? I don't know. A psychologist is a doctor. And they're very useful when you're not going to be on any mental health medications. But let's say you're on mental health medications from your PCP, give because they can prescribe them, whereas a psychologist is not a prescriber. So if you don't have a psychiatrist, which are really hard to come by, psychologists are not that easy either. That's why we're like overrun with therapists, and half of them don't know what they're doing. If a psychologist, that's a doctor. That's high end. So that's good. And then he's not prescribing you, but he knows what your prescriptions are, and your PCP is prescribing them because the PCP can, because he's the MD, like the psychiatrist, but you don't have the psychiatrist. That works out pretty good. And then the biggest thing is that psychologist, I assume he's giving you therapy instead of a therapist. That's even better than a therapist because he's more credentialed. You know, credentials matter. They just do. Thoughts there, Justin? George says, don't forget to spring ahead your clocks this weekend. Oh, is it this weekend? I love spring. I will say I like fall too. And I don't hate summer or winter, but those are the extremes and you get a little tired of them. Whereas I could probably do spring for almost forever and early fall forever. I could live in an environment like that. Nice thing about springing ahead. Yeah. I think some of you know my husband works like 2.5 hours away, so he's not here most days of the week. Stays out in this little place we got. Manufactured home in a park out there so he can work at the Capitol and the state capitol. Not at the Capitol, in a department of the state, but in the capital city. And you know, normally he would normally come home Thursday after work, but it's really hard for him to drive at night. He got Bell's palsy about a year and really less than a year and a half ago. It affects so many things with the eyes and the head in terms of it can bring upon a really bad headache. So with spring ahead, sometimes he's like, well, if I can leave an hour early from work, which is his own time, you know, it's taken from personal time, he can get home before dark. You know, summertime is no problem for those few months when it doesn't get dark till 9 o'clock, you know. Otherwise, sometimes he'll actually wait till Saturday to come home and just stay one night because the driving is 2.5 hours when you have to focus diligently on massive highways, lights coming at you in the face. It's a bit of a handicap for sure. Anyway, Bell's palsy, if anyone ever needs to talk about it. We had our house filled with Bell's palsy the last year and a half. But it definitely was a better alternative to being diagnosed with a stroke. So we feel like we missed a bullet. There was a lot of things that went on with that. Dawn Johnson's in the house. Hi, Dawn. Hello, love the video. It's been very helpful. I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. And if you ever have any suggestions, you guys know, definitely post them. Justin says 1 and 2. I'm not sure, Justin, what that means. Twill555 is in the house. Hi, Twill. I'm not sure if we've met. I don't remember the name. Says, hi, Stephanie. Diagnoses include Meniere's disease, vertigo, LCL. I'm not sure what that is. LCL injury? Did you mean like ACL? 50 years old with a cane and rolling walker prescribed. Okay. Well, you've hit the golden number of having some sort of reduced burden on you of proofs turning 50. So that's positive. It's not conclusive because of the sedentary work idea. And it will depend, as you know, it's going to depend on what was your prior work. Was it sedentary? Can you still do it? Or is there medical reasons well documented that you cannot do that job because, and you have a slew of stuff. So guys, for those of you, Meniere's disease, now, Twill, you can chime in on this if you want, often comes with ringing of the ears. It comes with the vertigo a lot, right? What else does it come with in your experience, Twill? You mentioned the vertigo. Is the cane and the rolling walker because of the ACL injury? No. What injury? Or is the vertigo so bad all the time that you're constantly on a rolling walker, but then you have a cane, so maybe that means there's some times that you don't need it? And how much is the frequency of the need for either of those documented in the medical records, 12? Like sometimes it'll say she occasionally needs a cane when she's walking a long distance. It's like, that is not helpful. You want it to be where ideally it says needs it for balance, for standing, due to instability, not just for walking. Because if it's just for walking, then they'll say you can walk and you can hold something in the other hand while doing so. That little file you're bringing to the boss's office.